Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone had a good holiday season and a happy new year. And I want to make this video about what kind of happened right before Christmas in 2022. We got a winter blast, I guess you could say. Here in central Illinois, we got temperatures that were highs of -1 and with wind chills at -30. But we only got about 3 inches of snow, so it wasn't horrible. But I've been listening to the news and I heard a lot about Buffalo, where they got 4 feet of snow, along with 0-degree temperatures and wind chills that could just burn right through your clothes. And unfortunately, over 30 people so far have passed away because of this. And I wanted to make a video that would show how to better prepare for an event like this. If you needed to travel, the things that you really should put in your car to be able to stay warm in case your car stops running or you slide into a ditch and you can't rely on the engine of your car to keep you warm. So let me just show you some things that I put together. Okay, the first thing that I recommend having in your car in case there is an event where you need to stay warm is a power source. Okay, first what I have here is a huge lithium iron phosphate battery, 275 amp hours, and it comes with a heated bag. So the battery itself will stay warm, so you don't have to worry about the battery itself freezing. Now, this thing is between $1,400 and $1,500. So this is like the extreme. But you can get batteries for much less. But you got to remember that the more amp hours your battery has, the longer you're going to be able to stay warm. Here is another option. This is a 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And we are going to go ahead and use this one as our test subject to make sure that all of the heating elements that we're going to be using can be powered by this battery and a 500-watt portable inverter. Okay, the inverter I'm going to be using is this little 500-watt pure sine wave inverter. I think I got on Amazon for like 50 bucks. And we're going to go ahead and use this battery. This battery by UNOWIX, I want to say it's probably, around 500, but you can get batteries that have just as much storage for as little as 300 when it comes to the lithium iron phosphate chemistry. And what's nice about this inverter is that it does come with a cigarette lighter adapter, but you can only really pull about 120 watts from this by using this. So a couple of the things that I'm going to be showing you probably can't be powered by your cigarette lighter. That's why you'll need these that come with it also. They are just your standard battery cable clips. And we're going to be going ahead and we're going to clip it just right onto the battery. It's literally a 30-second setup. And there we go. Our inverter is now powered and ready to power up some devices. Okay, the first thing that we're going to go ahead and demonstrate is just your simple heating pad that you use to relax your muscles on your back. And that's this right here. This one is, it's like a larger variety of a heating pad because it kind of drapes over your shoulders. And it does have a warm, low, medium, and high setting. So we're going to go ahead and show just how much electricity these use. And then we'll calculate how long this battery and inverter can power this heating element. And we're going to be finding this information out by a kilowatt meter. I'll go ahead and just plug this in right here. And plug it in right here. Some of the basic numbers that we're going to need to know is how many watt hours your battery is. A full lithium iron phosphate battery, that's 100 amps, is calculated right at 1280 watt hours. And then that means that you can use something that uses 1280 watts, you can use that for 1 hour. But let's go ahead and turn this on low, and we're going to see how many watts this heating pad uses. Okay, and after a few minutes of this thing warming up and settling down, it's using about 70 watts on the AC side. But I just did a measurement on the DC side by taking the voltage of the battery and multiplying it by the amount of amps that are being drawn from the battery, and it is right around 95 watts. So you got to take into consideration there's going to be a 25 to 30% loss from what you've plugged in to what your battery is actually being depleted. So let's just say that we're taking 95 watts per hour out of this 100 amp hour battery. So if you calculate that out, if you take 1280, which is a full 100 amp hour battery, and you divide it by 95 watts, because that is what this heating pad is using at the moment on low, you could potentially run this heating pad for 13 hours. Now that's just on low. If we had it on high, let's go ahead and turn it on high. There we go. All right, actually on high, I did switch it on to high, and it's still only pulling 67 watts. So even on high, it does look like you would be able to power this heating pad for roughly 12 to 13 hours. Okay, a heating pad alone is a very good start. That's what I took because we had to, we had to drive a half hour to go visit family, and we actually drove in that weather that was -3. And that's what I did, is I took a battery, I took this inverter, and I took that heating pad, because that is going to keep us warm if the worst case scenario happens. But you want to have more. You want to have multiple options, and you want to be able to keep multiple people in the car warm if necessary. That's where this comes in. Now, having regular blankets could really help you out, but when the temperature gets just so cold, something that's heated would really make the difference. And this is a heated blanket. I'll have a link to all these items in the description, so that way you could look more into everything that I'm talking about. Okay, so this heating blanket, I believe it is a 50 by 60 inch heating blanket. Let's go ahead and plug it in and see how many watts it uses. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put this on low. So let's turn it on. And actually, we're not going to put it on low. We'll put it on 3. Okay, so we went ahead and put it on 3. And we are using 128 watts. Now, if you take into consideration our losses, 128 watts, and we'll just say that we're only getting 70% efficiency, we're using 166 watts to warm up this heating blanket. Okay, so this heating blanket right here, if you were to keep it on 3 and you let it run on your 500 watt inverter with your 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, you could potentially run this heating blanket for almost 7.5 hours. And I truly believe that having that additional 7 hours of warmth can make a huge difference. And you do have to remember with the heating pad and the heating blanket, they regulate themselves by turning off and on. It's not like the higher the number, the hotter the coils get. They just stay on for longer. So the numbers that we're doing are probably on the low side, because we're saying that the heating blanket elements are going to be on the entire time. So if the heating elements in the blanket were on for 100% of the time, it can last for over 7 hours. And then the next thing that I'm going to be showing you is something that will stay on the entire time. And it's the least efficient, but I think that it's something that you really should look into because it is a pretty good heat source. Okay, and the last option that I have for heating a very small area in an off-grid situation, because you got to remember that there's some times when you don't choose to live off-grid. Sometimes the off-grid situation comes right to you, and that is what I'm talking about. That's when you're driving down the road and it is 0 degrees outside and icy and snowy. You slide off the road and your car shuts off and you're stuck. And now you're in an off-grid situation because you have only the power that's available to you in your confined area. So the last option that I have is a small ceramic heater. Now I know you're thinking, oh, ceramic heater, I'll get about a half hour of use from that. But this ceramic heater, it only uses 200 watts. So let's go ahead and plug it in and see what kind of efficiencies and heat we can actually get from this small portable heater. Okay, let's go ahead and turn it on. And with this heater, it's only on and off. There's no dials to give you some, different temperature controls or anything like that. This little heater, I think I got it on Amazon for like $25, $30. So it is very inexpensive, and I'm going to show you how much heat this thing actually produces after we figure out how many watts it uses. So we're going to let it stabilize for a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a meat thermometer, and I'm going to put the probe right up to the heat. Let's just say I'll put it, just 2 or 3 inches away from the heat. So that way you kind of know how much heat this little ceramic heater can actually produce. Okay, now that the ceramic heater has been on for about a minute to a minute and a half, it looks like it's using right around 200 watts, and that's what it's rated for. Now, if we take into consideration our 30% losses, we're looking at using about 260 watts. So with this ceramic heater using about 260 watts per hour, with this 100 amp hour battery, if it were completely full, you would get about 5 hours of use from this ceramic heater. And let me go ahead and show you the amount of heat that you'd be getting from the ceramic heater. Here's the amount of heat that you would get from this heater. The probe is about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches away from the heater, and it is producing 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So this little heater, even though it's very small, it is made to really warm up a very confined area. We're not talking about a heater that is made for heating a room. We're talking about maybe the inside of a car, or just under a blanket, something like that. Even though I don't recommend that because you could catch fire and stuff like that. But if you had this thing inside your car, it can make a big difference. And with this 500 watt inverter, you could actually have this 200 watt heater and that 120 watt heating blanket running both at the same time. Now, if you did that, you'd only get about 2 to 3 hours of use from a 100 amp hour battery. But if you chose to get a SunFun Kit's 275 amp hour battery, and they even make 300 amp hour batteries that are portable, kind of like this size, it can run for 3 times as long. So you're looking at, maybe 7 or 8 hours of continuous use from this heater and a electric blanket. Okay, well, I hope all of this made sense. And I really wanted to make this video because just hearing the news about what happened in Buffalo where people froze to death is super unfortunate. And I wanted to make sure that if you're willing to spend $300 or $400 on a battery, you don't need to buy solar panels, you don't need to do anything like that. Just buy a battery, buy a battery charger, and then buy a small 500 watt inverter. And if you're going to go somewhere in the extreme cold, put that in your back seat or put that in your trunk. Put it somewhere where it's available. And then that way you have that option in case the worst case scenario happens, where you get stuck out in the cold and your car no longer runs. That way you have, up to 10 more hours of a heat source. And that really can mean the difference between life and death. So thank you for watching this video, and I really hope that everyone stays safe out there. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and everyone have a great day. Bye-bye.